It's a quick follow up to the investigation of Pete Hegseth right now for basically war crimes committed by him and the Pentagon. I was watching Johnny Bananas and I just want to piggyback on what he said. He's right. Nixon was going to stay where he was. As he talks about Nixon and Watergate. Remember, Nixon and Watergate, they were trying to cover for him. The Republican Party did not want this to happen. But it got to the point they had no choice. When Barry Goldwater goes to you and goes, you got to go. You got to go. That's why he resigned. Now, Trump will never resign. But Pete Hegseth can. Because let's be honest, Trump has had a freaking headlock on the Republican Party. Fear beyond fear. We're going to get your primary. You got to do what we say. And Mike Johnson has based his entire speakership of making the Congress bow to the executive branch for power. He has given up Congress's equal power branch in the government. Remember, that's why it was designed like that by our forefathers, so the executive or the judicial and even the legislative could not have all the power. Mike Johnson turned it from Congress serving the constituents in their districts and then having a say in how the government's run to whatever Trump says goes. You must follow Trump. That's why we've been hearing congressmen right now pissy and upset, feeling that what they do doesn't mean anything. Because Mike Johnson is putting the relationship as, don't talk to me, talk to the White House. But you're the fucking speaker. Yeah, but I don't control it. That's why they're upset. And the first hint was the Epstein vote. Now, that was, at point, I thought it was performative to an extent. That Congress did it, except for Clay Higgins. Okay. You have to admire Clay Higgins because he's still, to an extent, he still held on to his beliefs, no matter how twisted they were. Now, and then the Senate surprised him because Mike Johnson was hoping that Senate Republicans would save his ass. They didn't. But Democrats said, hey, sure, we can do a voice vote. Voice vote. Yep, gone. Voice vote, yes. Don't have to take counting. That's what they did in Congress. So Trump had to sign it. This is the first sign of Republicans' party going, time is nigh. What's the second sign? Resignation, starting with Marjorie Taylor Greene and the most recent resignation of the Texas Republican who's not going to run for re-election. At least he's staying through his term and not quitting. But you're starting to see the cracks happening because Donald Trump is not benefiting the Republican Party. He's not. Now, the other signs are the elections coming up. Early in November, we saw that wipeout. And I'm hoping that's not an aberration, but that is a trend. And we have Tuesday's election in Tennessee, which could turn into a bloodbath for Republicans, even if she wins it by 1%. If she loses it by a little, that's still a warning, but that's still a loss. If she wins it, that is going to start tipping some dominoes. A lot of Republican congressmen may bail. And then they're talking about special elections. Well, then Republicans will just put in their people and win. And they're doing the redistricting. That's what Trump is really working on. Problem is, who are you going to run? More MAGA folk? That message is not getting through. The cultural war message is not getting through. And Republicans are starting to smell it, feel it. And now it's coming to fruition with Pete Hegseth. They were been defending Pete Hegseth from day one. Even after the signal chat, which basically would get anyone court-martialed and if he was regular military, let alone forced to resign. Hell, they tried to get Biden's defense secretary himself, make him resign because he went to the doctor without telling them. And they consider that a breach of conduct. Okay, so releasing military plans on a public server is not? And it's gotten worse. I mean, the Pentagon hates Pete Hegseth. Let's be honest, they hate his ass. And bringing every military commander from everywhere to listen to a speech about what? Not being fat? It was dumb. And they all sat there and stared at him, and there was no cheering. There was nothing. And so, what happened in the Caribbean with that first boat strike, it's going to resonate through the military. Because that came, the Washington Post got it when they're not following Jeff Bezos' orders. The Washington Post released it from a leak. That came from the Pentagon. Okay? You can't deny it, Pete. Do what you want. You can't. Okay? And that's going to go rising up to the chain of command. And that leak came right after the Mark Kelly and his other senators saying, hey, you don't want to follow illegal orders. And all of a sudden this popped up. And now Republicans are on board because they can hear it. I'm telling you, Pentagon people are talking to congressmen going, dude, we have to get rid of this guy. It's bad. It's really bad. Ask yourself, if we're going to go after Venezuela, why haven't we done it? I mean, the boat thing's bad enough, but why haven't we done it? Why hasn't it happened? Huh? Do you remember when we went into Iraq? We went into Iraq. There was no hesitation. Bang, it went. There's hesitation here. Why? Because they're hearing from Congress. And now the Pentagon is a lot of the people, staffers in Pentagon and military are running to congressmen behind Hegseth and Trump's back going. And that's why they're about to drag his ass and his whole chain of command in at the joint. This is not just Democratic side. Republicans and Democrats on both armed services committees want investigations for war crimes. This is the end. This is the beginning of the end. Because when Republicans turn on Trump, when the party turns on Trump to save themselves, that's when everything's going to change. And Trump will hang on. Trust me, he's not going to resign. But they're already trying to push toward J.D. Vance. That's going to help him because no one loves him. And if that election on Tuesday goes the way of Democrats, this shit's going to hit the fan. Because then no one in the cabinet is going to be safe, including Kristi Noem. Yeah, Kristi, you better be ready because the stories are coming out about what your shit you're doing. And Kash Patel, you're next. The birds are coming home to roost. And it's about time. But it only took them a year to destroy themselves. Thank God they were competent. Because if they weren't incompetent, we'd really be fucked. So this went longer than I thought. I just wanted to play that out. But this is the beginning of the end. It's not going to be an easy road. It's going to be ugly. And when everything ends, they flop around like fish. And like sharks, they still can bite, even though they're on the boat. But I think we're about to get control of everything. Now we have an opportunity not to do a clean house with the Republicans, but a clean house with corporate Democrats. But that's another video for another day. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you later.